Welcome to my channel. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to Vlogmas Day 20 of Vlogmas 2025. Today we are going to touch on the very sad and tragic case of little Daniel Marcombe, who was abducted and vanished practically without a trace. I'm going to try that new tea that I picked up today. I'm going to be checking out this brand new tea, spiced apple, and I just love the taste of apples, so I'm going to give this one a try. Let's give this spiced apple tea a try, shall we? That's so delicious. There is a hint of cinnamon in there along with the apple. I just love this. However, this is not a cold case. It took 7 years for police and detectives to solve it and figure out exactly what happened to 13-year-old Daniel Marcombe. So the story starts one December afternoon, December the 7th, 2007. And so 13-year-old Daniel Marcombe, he left his Queensland, Australia home one Sunday afternoon. It was close to Christmas. It was December the 7th. And he walked to the bus stop, which is less than a mile from his home. And he was going to take the bus to ride up to the local mall, Sunshine Plaza. And he was actually on a mission to buy some holiday presents for his parents and his family, and he also was going to get a haircut. So he had likely just received his allowance, and he was actually very excited and happy about the holidays, and he walked very lightly and quickly as he made his way towards the bus stop. And so he was in a very good mood. He was cheery, he was hopeful, he was excited. And so he was actually probably also going to be meeting up with some of the guys from school, and they were going to probably play a couple of video games before Daniel actually went shopping. However, all those plans were shelved because Daniel actually never made it to Sunshine Plaza. Daniel's parents, Bruce and Denise, were very loving and affectionate. So he came from a great home, guys. And they cared deeply about Daniel. So the family all sat around the dinner table and kept his food on the stove warm. But Daniel's family, the house was actually very close to the bus stop. And so the thing is that Daniel had made this same trip at least a dozen times before. And so Mom anxiously waited for Daniel to return from the mall. And it was puzzling that it was taking him so long. And eventually, evening came, it got quite dark and quite late, and Daniel's dinner plate went cold. And so, after Bruce and Denise contacted the authorities, the police instigated an initial search, but Daniel was still missing, and he would remain missing for quite some time. At that point, right after the initial search, Daniel was declared a missing person. At that point, the officials launched an official investigation into Daniel's disappearance. Now, the investigation uncovered 33 persons of interest, who had been physically seen in the public eye. They were all seen right around the time and right around the location where and when Daniel went missing. However, only one of these people were actually found guilty, and that person would be Brett Peter Cowan. I said it right. Brett Peter Cowan. And so Cowan was seen on video footage driving near that location where the mall was, near the time that Daniel did disappear, while he was waiting for a bus around 2 o'clock. So the video captured Daniel and Marcombe and Cowan circling around that area. And so, yes, Daniel did disappear, and so Cowan became a suspect. However, right at that time, after following Daniel's disappearance, Cowan managed to clear himself of suspicion because there was no actual evidence against him at that point. So, even though he had caught the attention, as 32 other people had, of the authorities, he was immediately cleared of any real suspicion. And so, then where was Daniel? What happened to him? And so that question would remain unanswered for the next 7 years, guys. 7 years. Now, 7 years after the disappearance of Daniel Marcombe on December the 7th, 2007, his parents called for another inquest into his disappearance, that the case be reopened. And so the request was finally upheld despite previous failed efforts to locate and account for the suspect's movement. So I'm thinking that Bob and Denise really did catch on right away that there was something off about Cowan, and they were right. So what happened was, it was only at that point, when the case was reopened 7 years later, that authorities actually went back to Cowan and began to question him about his previous criminal history regarding offenses against young children. Wow. I don't know why 7 years had to go by. I don't understand that. But it might be that it took 7 years for that criminal history to surface. I don't know. Or maybe it was that Cowan had an alibi, or tried to have an alibi, tried to give an alibi. I don't know. But with other criminal offenses against young children, it shouldn't have taken 7 years. I'm shocked. At this point, when the detectives realized that everyone was onto something about Cowan, they put him under covert surveillance, and they chatted him up, and they made friends with him, and they gained his trust. And doing so, and weeks and months after the case was reopened, it was discovered that Cowan parked in a parking lot at the Christian Outreach Center near the mall, and he walked down the bus stop. He actually got out of the car and did walk down to the bus stop, which is not on camera, to speak to Daniel. And at that point, Cowan then abducted him and took him to an abandoned house, a house that was maybe put up for sale or whatever. And he lured Daniel in there with a glass of water. Now, that sounds weird, but I don't know many kids that could be lured by water, but maybe something happened. I don't know. Something seems to be missing there. But anyway, this is so sad. Daniel Marcombe was murdered. I shouldn't say that, especially throughout Vlogmas, but he transpired. He had the life taken out of him. And he was just a boy. He was just a small boy. And he actually transpired, everybody, within 1 hour of his abduction. And Cowan assaulted him and then strangled him. Just like another little boy whose story I told about 2 years ago. And he choked him when Daniel tried to escape. And so after Daniel transpired, Cowan disposed of his body in an old mining site, and he also discarded his clothes and shoes, probably burned them. I'm not sure if they were ever found. The story doesn't go on to talk about that, but what a sad story, guys. And I think I'm going to leave you with that. I want to believe that Daniel is an angel somewhere up there flying around looking at us, and he's happy. I hope he's happy. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. And it was a sad story, but that's how it went. And it's sad that his parents have to have that memory of Christmas attached to their son's demise. And so thank you so much for listening and watching.